welcome along to London, where we have been attending an incredible event. It's been called Ending Homelessness Together. It's the start of a campaign, and the fire starter is this gentleman joining me now. You recognise him from the tenant tax campaign. It's founder of Platinum Property Partners, Steve Bolton. And Steve, you're back with another incredibly ambitious campaign. What's the backstory to starting Ending Homelessness Together?
So the backstory really was born out of the tenant tax campaign, or the AXA tenant tax campaign, and the failed judicial review. And what I realised was actually we needed to work together. And the central issue I think most people can agree upon is that we shouldn't have homelessness in this country. They don't have it in parts of Finland. In the early 2000s in this country we got down to 550 rough sleepers. That count is now over 5,000, with hundreds of thousands actually sofa surfing and technically homeless. So for me it was, what's a higher level campaign that we can all get behind, where the charity sector, the homelessness sector can all come together, and it was ending homelessness. And so it's been fantastic tonight to have the chairman and chief exec of the National Landlord Association, the chief executive of Crisis, just some inspirational people talking in a joined up manner and actually agreeing, which is makes a change.
It was fantastic. It's been such an inspirational evening. Now, Steve, you never want to do anything by halves. You've actually set a deadline where you want to make sure that there's no more homelessness in this country.
Sure, and it's not a personal deadline. It's lots of other people. You can't do it on your own. I can't do it. Crisis can't do it. It's about doing it together. So I buy into the Crisis vision in the next decade. And the amazing thing, which has never happened before, it was recently announced, is that Newcastle City Council have publicly gone on record with support from Crisis to say we will end homelessness in the next decade. And that's an amazing thing. And what we're hoping is, like a domino, the first one goes, and then I just spoke to somebody from my area, Bournemouth and Poole, and he said, let's go and meet the council together. I'm in at the highest level. There's just been a change of leadership. Let's go in and see if we can get them to copy the Newcastle example. So it's the start of, I think, a turning point in the ability of us as a nation and the United Kingdom and Britain to end homelessness forever.
It's really starting a movement, isn't it? And the key word in the campaign is together. Everybody's welcome. Anybody can join in at any level that they feel appropriate to them. But you just want everybody to see the common ground here and all work together.
Yeah, everybody can help. Everybody can help, whether it's things like just signing a petition. Crisis have got a campaign at the moment called Cover the Cost, and it's about actually raising the local housing allowance level. Well, that's good for landlords, that's good for Crisis, that's good for people that are living on the street that want to get into accommodation. It can be donating. I had one guy come up and say, I'm just buying a house, was thinking of selling it, I'm fairly wealthy, I'm quite happy to donate that house and not take any rent, which is amazing. We've got somebody else that said, actually, I make one room in the 60 rooms I've got available in one of my properties, available with support from Crisis or others for free for somebody who's homeless that really wants to change. There's other people. A lady donated £10,000 to the campaign this evening. We had Spare Room here and Platinum Property Partners, who are corporate partners and sponsors that do campaigns and raise tens of thousands of pounds. So everybody can help in their own way, whether it's a homeless guy came up to me and he said, look, I haven't got any money, I've only just got off the street, but I can give my time, I want to help, I want to do something. So whatever end of the spectrum, everybody can help.
It can start as a grassroots thing, everybody just doing something small, and then it can really, really build momentum.
Absolutely right, yeah. It's like everything, I think there's a famous quote that don't ever believe that a small group of thoughtful and committed people can't change the world, because it's the only thing that ever has, and that's what it starts with. But the great thing here, you've not just got Crisis, there's an umbrella organisation called Homeless Link. Yep. And they are the umbrella body for 850 homeless charities and not-for-profit organisations. So and they want to end homelessness, and they want to do it together. So Scotland have just come out with ending homelessness together. Wales have just come out jumping on the same kind of bandwagon. So there really seems to be the will of organisations and people to not see people rough sleeping. Everybody should have a right to safe, secure, long-term accommodation, and by working together I believe that can be achieved.
Absolutely. Now, the reason that we're in this situation, a widely held belief is that the government has successive governments have failed to build enough not only social housing but affordable homes as well. So really, I think one of the key messages that came out of this evening for me was that actually we can't rely on governments to solve this problem.
Absolutely right, and I think it's a complex issue. It's not just about land use and planning permission and whether enough houses are getting built. There's things like Section 24, removal of Section 21. The National Landlord Association shared for actually the last 3 years the number of landlords thinking of exiting the market versus those coming in are basically more are exiting and selling up. And less are coming in, and that's actually around about 2015-16 that changed. People renting to people on benefits has gone down from 40% to 19%. So there are some fundamental policy issues that could be changed that would make a huge difference. So we do need political support, we do need lobbying and everything else, but with 7 housing ministers in the last 8 years, you can't rely on politicians. So actually, what can you do as an individual? That I think taking that personal responsibility for what you can do to make a difference, if this is a cause that you believe passionately about, individual action is the answer to most things.
I think there's such a disconnect between central government that is hammering landlords and, as you've just said, deterring us from investing in the sector, compared to local government who are really, really struggling to meet their housing obligations. Even going so far now as to offer landlords golden hellos, to searching around the country for properties even way out of their area. It really is a housing crisis.
It is, and I think what affects politicians are votes more than anything else. You look at their reward structure, they want to get elected and they want votes. So what we're seeing in the corporate sector is the rise of veganism, anti-plastic movement. All of those things are actually consumer driven. They're coming from individuals like me and you, making a choice, making a stand, where they're putting their money, what they're sharing on social media, what they care deeply about, and that affects companies, that affects politicians. So actually, I think with a grassroots movement supported by organisations like Crisis, things can change. Politicians will have to listen at some point.
People power.
People power.
And with the social web and social media, we can have so much more impact. Now, one of the they were all amazing presentations, so I have to say, again, congratulations for the speaker lineup, some incredibly inspirational people that have done amazing things. But just in the background there, we've got Ash, who is the homeless ambassador for Crisis. He told his story, and what I took away from that is that homelessness, it's not like one day you're in a flat and then the next day you're on the street. There are many, many issues and, a complex path to becoming homeless. It can involve abuse at home, it can involve domestic violence, it can involve alcohol, it can involve drugs. These are all horrendous problems that people have to cope with, and they end up on the street, and it's virtually impossible for them to deal with those problems when they're out on the street. I think having a roof over their head, as Ash so eloquently said, it enabled to get his life back on track.
Totally, and I think, for me, one of the things I talk about a lot is stand on the shoulders of giants. Learn from people that have been there and done it, whether it's personally or professionally. Homelessness has been solved in other parts of the world with a model called Housing First, and it's been done in Finland. And so utilising that model, which is a big part of the crisis plan, is what we need to do here. Okay, cut out the red tape, provide more accommodation, provide the support services, be that mental health, substance abuse, domestic violence, how to write a CV, how to manage your budget. And one of the things I love about Crisis and other organisations like them is they have a renting ready course, in the same way that landlords get trained to learn how to be a landlord and all of that sort of thing. Actually, they train tenants how to manage a budget, how to, write the right application, how to get references, how to be independent fundamentally. And I think that's really a key part of the solution.
Indeed, and I just wanted to highlight that I learned this evening that Crisis will guarantee the tenant's deposit in certain instances, and that can make a big difference to a landlord who is a bit fearful of taking a tenant who's been homeless, to know that there's crisis in the background supporting that tenant and also guaranteeing the deposit.
Yeah, totally. Other things like enhanced housing benefit. Yeah, where actually you can team up with a local provider, a registered provider, and get higher levels of housing benefit if some extra support is provided for them. I was at a conference in Leicester yesterday for ending homelessness, and actually I met some guys from the northeast, from Durham, and they actually started by just making woodwork. But that went on to then buying a house and actually having homeless people come in, do up the house, and end up living in it. Now they bought 3 houses and they're getting funding. And I found there was a £5 million fund that gives interest-free loans to charities working in the homeless sector. So there's a lot of support available, whether it's deposits, interest-free loans. There's a lot that can be done. So I would just encourage people to find out more about Crisis, Homeless Link, see what they can do to get involved. And thank you for Property Tribes, as always, for spreading the message and supporting what is, I believe, a really, really worthwhile cause.
These kind of initiatives perhaps wouldn't have been possible maybe 10 or 15 years ago because we didn't have the digital platforms. Crowdfunding, we had a wonderful presentation on that, of people doing things in their communities to help people get off the streets by crowdfunding a deposit or something of that nature. There is so much that people can do when they join together.
Sure, absolutely right. And I think landlords play a vital role. 1 in 5 people live in a private rented house, and so it's time for the government to stop bashing landlords and changing the rules and putting in more legislation. But I think we will get more sympathy and we will get more support if we're more vocal and more active in supporting homeless charities, because it's the one thing that emotionally gets most people. And that's why I would encourage anybody in the property sector to, whether it's Crisis or another organisation, support homeless organisations and be vocal about that.
Indeed. So just as we finish, Steve, just tell us again, we've had the launch tonight. There's a real buzz here. It's like launching a space rocket. It's liftoff. What happens next?
So what people can do to get involved is donate to whatever organisation they want to that's working in the homelessness sector. Money, time, resources, learn more about it. But I think the most important thing is, please don't be a cynic. Even if you don't want to get involved, don't be a keyboard warrior and say, oh, it'll never work, this has happened, that has happened, I had this bad tenant and they were alcoholic and they trashed my... Yeah, that sort of stuff happens, okay, and we know that, we've all been there. Actually, either do something or be quiet. Please don't be negative about it, because actually what this needs is positivity and a growth mindset and people taking positive action.
Absolutely. Well, as ever, Steve, you have 100% our support here at Property Tribes. I think it's a wonderful thing that you're trying to do. You've gathered together some fantastic, inspirational people here tonight. It's been a great evening, and this is just the start. So Steve's given some indicators of what you can do if you want to join the Ending Homelessness Together campaign. It's going to be ongoing. We hope to get some updates, and we'll keep you informed of how the campaign is going. But please do lend your support in any way you can, or whatever level you can, because all together we can make a very, very positive difference to ending homelessness in the UK. And Steve, again, thank you for all that you do. I know how passionate you are about it, how much effort and work you put in. As I called you at the beginning, you're a fire starter. It's up to us to add the fuel to the fire. So thank you so much for hosting the evening and inviting us and inspiring us to move forwards.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.